Tony was a man in his mid-40s, living a life that appeared perfectly normal on the outside, but felt like a stormy ocean on the inside. He had a job, a house, and people around him who cared. But deep inside, he felt lost. He felt trapped in a life that no longer fit him. He couldn't remember the last time he had felt at peace, one particularly gray morning. As Tony drove to work, his mind raced with the usual barrage of negative thoughts. His hands gripped the steering wheel as the panic began to rise within him, faster and stronger than ever before. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a truck swerved into his lane. Tony barely had time to react. He slammed the brakes, his car skidding across the wet pavement. In those few seconds, everything slowed down. The world outside blurred as he braced for impact. But somehow, miraculously, he stopped just inches from disaster. For a moment, there was silence. The panic, the noise, the constant mental chatter, it all vanished. He was just there, suspended between what had just happened and what could have been. The truck sped away, leaving him in the middle of the road. Tony pulled his car back onto the road and continued driving. He drove the rest of the way to work in silence, his usual thoughts strangely absent. When he finally pulled into the office parking lot, he sat there, staring blankly at the dashboard, unable to move. What is this? He thought. But even that thought came from a place of curiosity, not fear. He wasn't scrambling to fix or change anything. He was just here. As the minutes passed, Tony felt an overwhelming sense of peace, a quietness he hadn't known was possible. It wasn't about achieving anything, or proving himself, or escaping. It was about simply being. And then, through the silence, came a bark. It was sharp, repetitive, insistent. In his mind, Tony saw it, his ego taking form. Not as some abstract concept, but as a barking dog. The dog circled him, growling and tugging at his pant leg, desperate for attention. Its voice yapped anxiously, dragging him back to thoughts of failure, past mistakes, and future worries. It wanted him to chase after those familiar feelings, to let them define him. The barking dog, always eager to protect, always desperate for control, always afraid. But Tony now saw where his ego belonged. It wasn't the enemy. It had its place, and sometimes it could even be useful. But his ego wasn't in charge anymore. The weight lifted from Tony's shoulders as he stepped out of the car. The world outside was the same. Gray skies, a busy workday ahead, but he felt lighter. The constant struggle with himself had shifted. The barking in his mind would always be there, but it no longer controlled him. From that day on, whenever the dog, whom Tony had affectionately named Rex, began barking too loudly, Tony could see beyond the noise, beyond the chaos. Life didn't stop being challenging, but Tony refused to let his ego dictate his reality any longer. In that quiet realization, he discovered the peace he had been searching for all along. If you enjoyed this video, you might love this next one too. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more inspiring content in the future.